الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Kitab al-Bay', the book of Akhsar Al-Mokhtasarat, and we stopped at the last maybe point or mas'ala in the fasl of al-Rahn or the collateral. I think we took ولمرتهن أن يركب ما يركب ويحلب ما يحلب بقدر نفقته بلا إذن. That for the مرتهن, again, who's المرتهن? The one who's taken the rahan. And al-rahin, the one that is given the rahan, and al-rahin is the rahan. And what type of aqd, what type of contract is the rahan? Is it, there is uqud mu'awada, the uqud either you profit from it, or it's a aqd that without being a profitable one, but this is, they call it, what is the purpose of al-rahan? Is tawthiqat ad-dayn, to guarantee a loan that a person would pay it back. So it's not the purpose of it of making money, it's just to guarantee the rights not to be wasted. And we talked about many different things, but the last thing is that the murtahin, the one that he will keep the rahan with him, he can ride it if it's something to be ridden, and it's he can milk it if it's something to be milked. According to the nafqa, according to how much he spent on it, because if it's an animal, it has to be, he has to spend on it, and since it's kept with him, so he can use it according to what he spends on it. Bila idhn, without taking the permission of al-rahin. And that means if it's not any of what's mentioned, if it can be kept without having by necessity to spend on it, then he is not to use it whatsoever. If it's by the permission of al-rahin, then it's permissible, except if it's qard. Except if the transaction was qard, a loan, that means it is not permissible to be used, otherwise it becomes a benefit as a result of the loan. Then and he says, وَإِنْ أَنْفَقَ عَلَيْهِ, I think we said that, but quickly. وَإِنْ أَنْفَقَ عَلَيْهِ, that means if he spend on it. وَإِنْ أَنْفَقَ عَلَيْهِ. This is, of course, as we see in the books of fiqh, there's lots of if conditions or if statements with conditions. Sometimes you might find things that are very strange, but or something that rarely happens. But for the most part, this is how the ulama, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon them, to preserve the deen. Not things that are made up, or things that is not in the life of the people. So this is not like what if. It's not like the what ifs that has no reality to it. So here, the case of there's the disputes in these contracts or these transactions is usually mentioned in the same chapters. And the more the book of fiqh is in details, the more the issues of dispute are mentioned, and it's also mentioned in the kitab of al-qada, or judgment for the judge to rule and things like this. So here, وَإِنْ أَنْفَقَ عَلَيْهِ, if he spent on it, who is the one that is going to spend on it? Al-Murtahin. Al-Murtahin. Bila, here there are more than one case. The first one, bila idhni rahinin ma'a imkani. Bila, without idhn. Idhn is the permission. Without the permission of al-rahin, the owner of the rahin. Without his permission, ma'a imkanihi, while he had the imkan, that means he was able to take the permission, but he didn't. Right, so the surah al-mas'ala here, that he spent on the rahan without taking permission of al-rahin, the owner of the collateral, while he was able to take permission, but he didn't. Lam yarji', the ruling is, the hukm is lam yarji'. That's the hukm. Lam yarji', meaning he's not going to return back. Al-ruju' is to return. Lam yarji', he is not going to return back on the rahin. This is what the meaning yarji'. Yarji' alayhi, it means you go to him, give me my money that I spent on your horse or on your camel or whatever there is, which is the rahan. He cannot do that. Why? Because he spent without the permission of a rahin, while he has the ability to take permission, but he didn't. The second one, وإن أنفق still عليه, if he spend on the rahn, وإلا, he says otherwise, وإلا رجع. So what's إلا? Instead of saying وإن أنفق عليه بإذن من الراهن أو بلا إذن راهن مع عدم إمكانه. So you have this, the cases here. Either he takes permission, so the matter is clear. Because the same thing as it will apply with معار ومؤجر. Someone rents a house or an apartment. He needs to fix something in it. Right? Either he takes the permission, or either the owner, he would fix it himself, or he would take permission from the owner and he would fix it, and then يرجع عليه. He will tell him, send me the bill and I will pay it. So the same thing with the rahn here. Or he fix it. So the first one that we mentioned here is that he fixed it without permission while he had the means to take permission. The owner has the right to say, I did not give you permission to fix this. So this is on you, it's not on me. So the wa'illa refers to that there was no way for him to take permission and it has to be done. The apartment is flooding, in the case of something like that. Or in the case of the rahn, the animal is going to die. Someone has to take care of the animal. So he has to spend on it. And there's no way that he can get permission. He called, he tried to go to the guy. So no imkaniya, there's no way for him to take permission. So, and he has to spend. So he spent. So that's what وَإِلَّا رَجَعَ بِالْأَقَلِ. If there was no way for him to take permission and it has to be spent on the rahn, رَجَعَ, he would return بِالْأَقَلِ مِمَّا أَنْفَقَهُ. He would return to the rahin with the least, or the least amount of money that he would spend. وَنَفَقَةِ مِثْلِهِ إِنْ نَوَى. And the nafaqa of the like of it, if he has the intention to return. We need to understand this correctly, inshallah ta'ala. So, رَجَعَ بِالْأَقَلِّ مِنْ قِيمَتِهِ. So if there's two doctors, for example, to come and treat the animal. One would take $200 and one would take $100, for example. Or a medicine that is authentic, what they call it, and one generic. So he spent the more expensive one. So that's without permission. So when he goes back to the rahin, he would only get the less price, not the most expensive. So he's entitled to the less. And of course, they have to assess it according to the norm of the people. رَجَعَ بِالْأَقَلِّ مِمَّا أَنْفَقَهُ. The least of what he spent. وَنَفَقَةِ مِثْلِهِ. And the nafaqa of the like of it. So then they can, because again, sometimes people might spend more than what things he's been tricked or something like that. So the nafaqa or the like, this matter, the norm is in this place is that it costs that much. But here he says in nawahu. In nawahu, that means if he intended for what? If he had the intention to على الرجوع. So if the murtahin spent from his money, but while he was spending, his niyyah was, it's okay, I'll take care of it. I'm not going to ask the owner or the rahin for the money. This is his intention. Then it's not permissible for him to change his intention later. Allah knows, of course. And this is in general. If you have the intention of a tabarru', if you have intention to give something for free or sadaqah, it is not permissible for you to change your intentions later and to say, no, I want to give it for sale. Your intention was to give it fi sabilillah, to give it for free. So it is not permissible to change your intentions. The opposite is okay. So if his intention is to ask the rahin for the money, and he would take the less and so on, and then he changes intentions, he says, okay, I'll give it from my own money. That's fine. MashaAllah, this is good. But the opposite is not permissible, and this is what means in nawahu. Clear? So the issue of an-niyyah. So this is the case if he spend without permission. Because if he spend with permission, it's very obvious, that's fine. The issue is if he spend without permission. So without permission, even he had the means or he didn't have the means. If he had the means to take permission and he didn't, then he has no right to take money. If he did not have the means to take permission, then he is only entitled to الأقل مما أنفقه ونفقة مثله, the least and the nafaqa of the like of it. Okay, is it clear? Every word is clear? Then he says ومعار ومؤجر أو مؤجر ومودع كره. So these three contracts also is the same ruling applies here like the rah. Mu'ar from al-ariya. We took the word al-ariya before. Al-ariya is, what's the difference between al-ariya and al-qard? Al-ariya is when you give something borrowed, but to return what? To return the same thing. Ahsant. Different than al-qard. As we said, al-qard in the fiqh is that you lend something, but what's going to be returned is the value, not the exact same thing that you lend. That's called al-ariya. If you're lending someone a car, for him to return back the same car, that's called ariya. It's not called qard. You're not lending him as a qard the car. It's qard, that means if you give him the car, and then as far as the aqd of the qard, he can return the value of it. Not exact the same one. So usually people would return the same thing. So it's called ari. So al-ari, when you borrow a book from a library, it's called ari. So because you're supposed to return the exact same book. So if things happen to the ariya, like what happened to the rahn, the same thing apply. If it needs to be fixed and things like this. And the same thing mu'jar, something that you rented, or mu'ajjar, the rules applies. So the same thing when people rent a place, want to fix it, what not to fix it. If it's with permission, then he returns back. So all of these things, if in case of dispute, this is what happens. وَمُودَعْ, al-ida' is when you leave something as a amana or a trust for you also to take the same thing. Clear? Depositing is. And the last statement here, وَلَوْ خَرِبَ فَعَمَرَهُ رَجَعَ بِآلَتِهِ فَقط. وَلَوْ خَرِبَ فَعَمَرَهُ. لو خَرِبَ means if it's ruined completely. فَعَمَرَهُ, the opposite of خَرِبَ, that means he brought it back to the way it was. Like a building, for example, destroyed, and he built it back. In case he did this. Then رجع with what? He says بِآلَتِهِ فَقط. Of course, out of the goodness of the other guy, give him everything. The same thing with the permission. Because if it destroyed, he was not someone that did anything to it. So he's not responsible. But if he built it back after it's completely ruined and without taking permission, so he's only entitled to آلَتِهِ فَقط. آلَتِهِ refers to the content of what is being built. Not the أجرة اليد, not the compensation of the workers. Right? So you hire someone to come and build. You're only entitled to the bricks and the cement and all of these things, but not the material, not labor. So he's entitled to the material, not the labor. And again, this is in case of a dispute, because the other guy will say, I did not give you the permission to build it. So, but then you have him, he left him with material, so this is worth something. So he's only entitled to the material. Clear? Yes, this is the material now. Clear? Should we go to the next fasl? The next chapter, the ضمان. He says, ويصح ضمان جائز التصرف ما وجب أو سيجب على غيره. So this is with regards to الضمان. The word ضمان come from something is الضم, when something goes next to something else. Something is added to something else. But here this is what they call it the guarantee. So the ضمان here is a عقد, also part of the توثيقة, is to guarantee a loan or something like this. And it's basically التزام. This is how the ulama they define it, is when someone would have upon himself التزام جائز التصرف, because he says جائز التصرف, the one that has the permissibility to use his money or to be able to spend from his money and things like this. ما وجب على غيره. So he says it here differently. Let's first understand what الضمان is. الضمان is when someone would put upon himself an obligation that is not on him, on someone else. He would guarantee someone else. So someone took a loan and he needs a guarantor. So that person would say if he doesn't pay his, or doesn't have to say if he doesn't pay. الضمان in the fiqh is very precise that he would say ضم ذمة إلى ذمة. The dhimma is one's financial ability. He would add his to the other guy. He would say, I guarantee him. And as we see with the rulings, that means both become liable for that loan, for whatever the rights is. So that means, as we will see, the one that he gave him the loan, for example, he doesn't have to go to the one that borrowed. He can go to either of them. They're both equal when it comes to their liability with regards to the loan or whatever they make daman of, right? So this is the daman. So is again عقد that has توثقة. So the words that he says ويصح ضمان not ضمان ضمان جائز التصرف. جائز is the مضاف إليه. That means the daman or the guarantee of جائز التصرف. This is two meaning. جائز from الجواز, permissible. التصرف, the one that has the permissibility to deal with money. So that means if it's a child, it is not permissible for a child to say, I guarantee that I would give the money that he took from you. A child or a majnoon, or, so it has to be someone that is aqil, someone is sane, someone is baligh, someone has reached the age of puberty, a hurr, not a slave, a free man, rashid. A rushd is that someone is able to deal with his own money. Like وَبِتَوْلِ يَتَامَى, you test the orphans. When they reach the age of puberty is not sufficient unless they have the wisdom enough to be able to deal with their money. So this is جائز التصرف. So who is جائز التصرف? عاقل, بالغ, عاقل, حر, رشيد. Four things. بالغ, in the age of puberty, عاقل, sane, حر, free man. Rashid has what's the good word for الرشاد, الرشد? Financial sense. Yes, he's not foolish when it comes to having money. Right? So he's not someone that he doesn't value the money. So he has that rushd. So ويصح ضمان جائز التصرف. His ضمان is صحيح, is valid. ما وجب, what's already become obligatory upon someone else, أو سيجب, or it's going to be obligatory later على غيره, on someone else, not himself. If it's upon himself, it's called he's someone that borrowed or something. But الضمان, that means he guarantees someone else. And this is a good deed if a person wants to do that. He made obligatory thing upon him when it's not. And there's some details on when is it recommended, when it's even should not be done, if people would abuse that and so on. So, but the first statement, ويصح ضمان جائز التصرف ما وجب أو سيجب, because it either now it needs to be paid now, or it's going to happen in the future. على غيره, upon someone else other than him. Is it clear? So ويصح ضمان جائز التصرف ما وجب أو سيجب على غيره. And this is when ولمن جاء به حمل بعير وأنا به زعيم. زعيم is ضامن. I mean, whoever brings it, or I'll guarantee that it's going to be paid back. So, and sometimes the words are used in differently according different urf and norms. And the next chapter is al-kafala, or which is kind of, there's major difference between both. But here this is what الضمان is. So يصح ضمان جائز التصرف فيما وجب أو سيجب على غيره لا الأمانات, not the أمانات. أمانات is the plural of أمانة. بل التعدي فيها. So you have someone give someone as an أمانة. Keep this with you till I come back from my traveling. Can the one that is giving the أمانة, the owner of the أمانة, he's given his neighbor or his friend the car to keep it as أمانة, not to borrow the car, but to keep it till he comes back as أمانة. And that's why things has to be clear between both of them. So can the owner of the car says, I want ضمان, give me a guarantee that you would fulfill and give me back. I mean, the car is safe till I come back. It's not permissible, because why then he would want to keep it with him? Because the Amin is already no ضمان on him. There's no guarantee for him because he's doing a good thing for him, unless if التعدي, unless he made tafrit, unless he did something as mentioned before that out of negligence, or he did something bad or haram that ruined the amana. In that case, he's responsible to give the qima or the like of it, or the value of it. So بل التعدي فيها, we're talking about the ضمان. The ضمان is permissible in this case if there was تعدي. So the owner of the car or the owner of the gold or whatever that is given as amana, as a trust, he can say, give me a ضامن, give me something that would guarantee if you did something bad that you ruined it or you lost it. Clear? Because since he has to give back the value of it or the like of it if he did something of a ta'addi, transgressing the limits or be negligence, so this is permissible to ask or to have a ضامن in this case. But the normal situation is no ضامن then. Is it clear? So لا الأمانات. So the amanat does not require a ضامن. So if someone keeps, again, in a safe box, keep something in a safe place. You know, people have, they have a guarantee there, it's not permissible. Or there's no guarantee there. Unless they did something, someone left it open and he left. So if someone comes and steal it, he's responsible because this is negligence. So he can get a ضامن to guarantee if this happens, if in the case of negligence or something like that. Is the case? So this is what it means, لا الأمانات بل التعدي فيه. But rather is التعدي, the transgressing the limits in الأمانات. Then it's permissible to ask for a ضمان. Is it clear? لا الأمانات, not the أمانات, بل, but التعدي فيها, that means التعدي فيها is permissible to have a ضمان in this case, or guarantee. Clear? He says ولا جزية, and the same thing, it's not valid to ask for ضمان for the jizya. So the jizya, the taxation on the non-Muslims in the Muslim land. So they're supposed to come and take the money from them. Then you would say, I need a ضامن in case that you don't pay your taxes, someone else will pay it on your behalf. It doesn't work. So ولا جزية. Okay, clear? So the ضمان does not work with the amanat and does not work with the jizya. Only in the amanat if there was ta'addi, if there was transgression. The Arabic is clear, the words are clear. طب then he says وشرط رضا ضامن فقط. وشرط رضا ضامن فقط. Here وشرط in the passive tense, it means it's a condition. There's a condition here for the rida, the acceptance of the ضامن, of the one that would guarantee, فقط, only. He's the one that you need his acceptance. You cannot say to the one that you owe him money, so and so will be my cosigner, or he will guarantee me if I did not pay. He has to accept it. That ضامن has to accept it. But the other two, they don't have to accept anything. So the other ones. So the one that is seeking a ضامن, he doesn't have to accept it. If a ضامن goes forward to the owner of the money, for example, I guarantee this guy doesn't have to accept. It's because this is a way to strengthen the contract for the owner of the thing not to lose anything. And the same thing for the one that gave the loan. If someone comes forward and says, I guarantee, I co-sign, then he does not have to say, I accept you or I don't accept you. Because either way, the contract in its original form is valid. He agreed to the original contract, so this is an addition to it. That does not require the acceptance or rida, the one that benefits from the ضمان. Is it clear? Okay. When you say the الضمان, you have a ضامن. You have what's the ضامن in English? The guarantor. That's the ضامن. the one that would guarantee someone else. And he's guaranteeing in a transaction that involves two people. Say, for example, it's a loan. So you have الدائن والمدين. What's the two sides of a loan? The borrower and the lender. So who would want to have a guarantor? The lender. So, and you have the borrower. Who from the three, it's a condition to have his acceptance? The ضامن, the guarantor only. The other two, we don't need their acceptance because the lender, he's benefiting from it. So he doesn't have to say, I don't accept this guy to guarantee. Unless he wants someone else to guarantee, that's a different situation, right? So because he already agreed to the contract, that's different than to say, I'm not going to lend you the money unless you bring me a ضامن, right? And the ضامن there has to fulfill certain conditions. So if you bring him a ضامن, says, no, I don't like this guy. So it's not about accepting the ضامن, the specific ضامن. It's already done as the transaction is done. This is something that is additional. This is توثيقة. So he does not have to accept it. Meaning that you have to, as far as the validity of the ضمان contract, that he has to accept it. And the same thing for the borrower, of course, because this is something that's a favor for him. So only رضا الضامن is a condition, so that nobody would accuse someone that he would guarantee the loan when he didn't. So he's the one that has to come forward and says, I guarantee that person. No, the ضامن agreement is with the lender. Yes. No. وشرط رضا ضامن فقط. But here is شرط as a condition. The other one can refuse or not, that's different situation. But here as a condition, only the ضامن has to accept. Yes. He said, I guarantee that loan. That means it's upon him and becomes for both the borrower and the ضامن together at the same level. And that's why it says, the next one, وَلِرَبِّ حَقٍّ مُطَالَبَةُ مَنْ شَاءَ مِنْهُمْ. وَلِي, the lam here is for the رَبِّ حَقٍّ. Rabb is the Lord of the right. So Rabb, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a Rabb when it's mentioned, is mutlaq in the absolute sense. For the human beings, you can say, but you have to make idafa. Rabbul Bayt, the owner of the Lord of the house, meaning the owner of the house, not Rabb, and that's it. So وَلِرَبِّ حَقٍّ, that means the owner of the right. And who's the Rabb al-Haqq here? Who's the one that has the right? If it's a loan type of thing, it's the lender. So the lender here in this case, for him, the lam is lam al-istihqaq. That means he deserves, is his right. مطالبة من شاء منه. مطالبة الطلب is to ask whoever he wish or will from both of them. So صاحب الحق, he doesn't have to go to the borrower first unless it's mentioned in the contract. So, and if he goes to the ضامن, right, first, the ضامن, it is not valid for the ضامن to say, go to the borrower first. Why are you coming to me? Go to him first. If he doesn't give you, I'll give you. He doesn't have to. He says, no, I'm coming to you. Both of them are the same level of liability here. In some parts, actually, this is the mas'ala, right? The ruling of it, there's other way and other ways where they can go first to the other side of the transaction, which is here in the borrower, for example. And most of the countries, even the Muslim world, that they would have to go to the borrower first. And if he doesn't pay, then they go after the ضامن, which is now the norm. But this is, the madhab here specifically is both have the same level of liability. But then, it doesn't say here. Say, for example, we understand the mas'ala? So say that the lender, he went to the ضامن, the guarantor, not the borrower. And he said, I want my money from you. So he said, okay. He gave him the money. Then the borrower is not free because now the deal between the borrower and the ضامن. He's not like off the hook, that's it, I'm done. No, he has to go back to the lender since he made under the contract. This is a ضامن. and this is the borrower, and this is the lender. The lender went to the Damin. The Damin gave him his money. The contract is void? No. The Damin can go to the court with the contract to get his money from the borrower. So the borrower, the borrower, his dhimma is still occupied. They call the dhimma. The dhimma also, what's the word for the dhimma? One's responsibility, huh? Obligation, liability. So you have two liabilities here. You have the liability of the damin, and they have the liability of the borrower. Once a damin comes into the picture, now you have two liabilities for the lender. He can go to either one of them. So if he goes to the borrower and the borrower give him the money, both liabilities are gone. But if he goes to the damin and the damin give him the money, then the liability of the borrower, it's still occupied, but not with the lender, with the damin. Is it clear? Right. That's if the damin wants to get his money from the borrower, he can forgive him. But some people think that the damin, if he's damin and he gives the money to the lender, that's too late. Then the borrower will say, thank you very much and see you later. No, because there's a contract between them. He's only damin, right? So he paid on his behalf. So the borrower has to give him the money. But if he doesn't have, that's a different situation. Please? So, but here the last one, وَلِرَبِّ حَقٍّ مُطَالَبَةُ مَنْ شَاءَ مِنْهُمْ, whoever he wished from both of them. Any questions? And also for those who are online, hopefully, inshallah, we did not lose them with every word of what's in the mat. So I'll read it one more time because the kafala and al-hawala, both, the three, they go one after the other. We should take the kafala first also tonight, inshallah. So he says, وَيَصِحُّ, read it and see if you missed any word in it. ويصح ضمان جائز التصرف ما وجب أو سيجب على غيره لا الأمانات بل التعدي فيها ولا جزية وشرط رضا ضامن فقط only ولرب حق مطالبة من شاء منه. And if you have questions online later, inshallah. But any questions? The borrower will be the al-madin and al-da'in. Right. This is if it's a loan, right? But if it's there's a daman and there is madmun alayhi, the one that would benefit from the daman versus al-damin and al-madmun lahu. There's al-madmun lahu wal-madmun alayhi wal-damin. Al-damin is the guarantor. Al-madmun lahu, the one that the daman is for him, is for who? The borrower. Al-madmun alayhi al-haq, رب الحق. Please. Then وتصح الكفالة. Now الكفالة from كفالة يكفل الكفيل. Sometimes it's also called like the daman, guarantor and things like this, but there's major difference between both in fiqh. So al-kafala here is also iltizam. It's having the right of jaiz al-tasarruf also, someone that has the permissible for him to deal with his money and things like this. But here the kafala is guaranteeing bibadan man alayhi haqqun mali. So the kafala is that the kafil, the one that would say, I guarantee to bring that guy physically to you when it's time for him to pay his money or whatever. So this is the kafala. So it's not التزام ما وجب أو سيجب على غيره. It's not التزام مالي. It's not a financial liability on him. No, it's a physical liability that he has to bring that guy to the court, for example. In front of the judge, they make a deal, so they don't know this guy. He's a stranger. So someone, he would say, I guarantee that I will bring him. They will bring him in when it's time to pay the loan or whatever. So this is iltizam that he would bring the batan, the body or the person physically. Then they deal with him. Al-Kafil is not responsible for money. He's responsible to bring that guy physically. If he's not able to, then he would have the daman financially. Okay, but we'll see the rules of it. So this is الكفالة. Then if we want to define it, as العلماء define it, التزام إحضار من عليه حق مالي من جهة التصرف. So here التزام إحضار, to make someone present. من عليه حق, the one that has right upon him. So this is التزام, to bring him, to bring that person. Clear? But only if the right is a financial one. No had, no qisas, as some fairy tales, sometimes people, they mention stories where someone made a kafala for someone that they were supposed to punish him or kill him as a result of a killing or something like this, and he said, I will make the kafil for him. Kafala does not work with a physical punishment upon a person. It's only financial liabilities. So if someone has been caught, he killed someone and he's supposed to be hanged or killed or whatever, and he wants to go visit his mother or his sister, and someone will come and say, I guarantee that he will come back, and if he doesn't, you can take me in his place. That's all fairy tales. Doesn't work. Right? Because if there's a had, if there's a punishment on a person, no one is to take his position. ولا تزر وزيرة وزر أخرى. It's only if it's a financial domain or financial liability, but not he's supposed to be imprisoned for a month, and someone come and be his kafil. He says, I guarantee that I'll bring him if you let him go for a day, and if he doesn't, you can put me in prison in front of him instead of him. It's not permissible, right? Even though the ikhwat Yusuf khud ahadana makana, take one of us in place of him. People can say these things, but as far as judgment and rules, this is not valid. It's not permissible, because the haqq al-badani, the physical right, no one can take the place of someone else. But that's why وتصح الكفالة, the kafala is valid ببدني, with the body of من عليه حق مالي, for the one that has a financial liability or right. So is it clear? So as you see the difference between that and the daman. So two people that are getting into the contract, again a borrower and a lender, and al-kafil here, his job is, I'm going to bring him to you and at the date that he's supposed to pay the loan. So this is ببدن من عليه حق مالي وبكل عين يصح ضمانها. And also with every عين, with every physical matter that has value, that it's permissible to make it as a daman. So meaning here that if the person does not show up, then they will go after him with the daman. He will act like a daman. He will have to pay the daman that he incurred upon himself. So this is then they can go after him, and that's why وبكل عين يصح ضمانها. If it's valid for it to be guaranteed, then he would have the kafala that he would bring it if he does not bring the person. So the person took something. He borrowed a car, and they want to make sure, like imagine the rental car companies would require a kafil. Kafil, that means if he does not bring the car back, someone would say, I will guarantee that I would bring him back. That individual, he will bring the car back to you. If he does not bring the car back to you, as a result of that, who's going to guarantee the car? The kafil. So it becomes from kafala to daman. But initially, it's his kafil only. That means he's going to bring the person. So for example, if not the person and the car, right? So if he brings the person and the person lost the car, the kafil done his job. They won't go after the kafil to get the value of the car. Because the contract between the car rental place and the kafil is to bring al-badan, to bring the physical being of that person. He did not make a daman contract. But if he's not able to bring the man that took the thing, then in that case, the kafil is responsible for the car and to bring the like of it. Because he was not able to bring the individual. Is it clear? So this is the difference between الكفالة والضمان. So وتصح الكفالة ببدن من عليه حق مالي وبكل عين, with every عين يصح ضمانها, something that is valid for it to be in ضمان, and as mentioned before that anything that can be sold can be also used as a ضمان, not something haram and things like this. So if he took something haram, then he's not responsible for returning it back. Clear? Then he says وشرط رضا كفيل فقط. As before, the rida, the acceptance of the daman was the only one that as a condition needs to be there. Here وشرط رضا كفيل فقط. Al-kafil is the only one that has to accept to be a kafil. So the same thing as the daman. وشرط رضا كفيل فقط. Only his acceptance is a condition for the contract to be valid. Doesn't have to be that's the only acceptance, but this is as a condition for the contract of a kafala to be valid, his acceptance has to be there. And that's why he says, فَإِن مَاتَ, if he died, أو تلفت العين بفعل الله تعالى قبل طلب برئ. فإن مات, who died? If المكفول له, if the one that is supposed to come in front of the judge. Al-kafil is the one that would guarantee. And al-makful, the one that has been benefiting. What's al-makful? The one that is supposed to be brought by the kafil. Right? If that guy dies, the kafil is free. He doesn't have to, because the deal is that he brings that individual. That individual died, so the kafil there's nothing upon the kafil, no liability upon the kafil, because the guy died. The same thing, if the kafil himself died, then there's nothing. So فَإِن مَاتَ أَوْ تَلِفَتِ الْعَيْنِ, or the subject of al-kafala was because of something that the makful lahu, or the one that borrowed something, he borrowed a car. So if this car get destroyed, بِفِعْلِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى, by the action of Allah, that means it's not the fault of anyone. Hail came down, destroyed it, whatever. قَبْلَ طَلَبٍ, you have to be careful with this. قَبْلَ طَلَبٍ, before the time comes where he's supposed to bring the makful, before he's supposed to bring that guy back to the owner or so. Bari, that means he is innocent, he does not have any liability. Which means if al-ayn, we know al-ayn, we don't have to say like a car. Al-ayn is something specific. If it get ruined, but before the talab, this is before the talab, this is obvious. If it's after the talab, that means he was supposed to bring this guy, the makful, on the beginning, on the first of the month. And that ayn, or this car, get ruined on the 10th of the month. He was supposed to bring him before that. So he's not innocent, because he did not bring him. Because it was after the date, he was supposed to bring him the beginning of the month, so he was late. And when he was late bringing him, the car made an accident and it was all ruined. So he's still responsible, because he did not bring him on time. But if it get ruined before, not by anyone's fault, before the time comes, al-kafil is free, is innocent, because it was not time yet. Is it clear? So أو تلفت العين بفعل الله تعالى قبل طلب, before asking or before going after it. This is the talab. Bari, that means he's innocent, or he's free from any liability. The last thing, which is al-hiwala, or it's called al-hawala. Can we take it quickly and then we review it again next time, inshallah? Because al-hawala is the transfer of the debt. So you took al-daman, someone guarantee the money, and al-kafala is someone guarantee the person to come. And if he's not able to, then he would have the daman. The third one here, al-hawala, which is also another type of tawthiqat al-dayn. Al-hawala is from al-tahawul, is when the loan is transferred from one dhimma to another dhimma, from one's liability to someone else, transferring the debt basically. So what does that mean? Sometimes board would help, especially with the limitation that I have. So hopefully, inshallah, you guys can understand. So let's say A, B, C. Right? A lend money to B. Right? So when it's time for B to return the money back, B says to A, take your money from C. So now the loan is between who? A and C, and B gets out of it. This is, he transferred his debt to C. Can that happen? Yes, with conditions. This is al-hawala. Not the same word they use it now where money transfer. If you go to the banks in the Arab world, they say this is hawala. You know, I'm sending money to someone in another country or something. This is not hawala. This is trend. This is different. Al-hawala here is the transfer of debt. So how can that, when is it permissible? تجوز الحوالة على دين مستقر. So you have here الحوالة itself. You have المحتال. المحتال is not the crooked one. المحتال is the one that is going to send the money to let's, before we get into the names of people, but see here تجوز الحوالة على دين مستقر. So it has to be, in that case, that we have A, B, C, right? So the B, he has to have a loan mustaqir, is established. It's not conditional when it comes to C. Because the dayn can either be mustaqir or not mustaqir. If the loan is not mustaqir, like if there is like the salam, like the contract of a salam that we took before. So it's not mustaqir. That means things can happen and the loan is gone. Or they have a period of khiyar where he's given 30 days to return back what he purchased. So this is not mustaqir. So you cannot transfer his loan to someone that the loan is not well established. It has to be well established and he has to give it back. So this is a dayn mustaqir. This is al-hawala. إن اتفق الدينان جنسا ووقتا ووصفا وقدرا. If both dayn, so you have B and C, there's A has a dayn and C has a dayn, or the debt. So they both have to be اتفق, that means that they're equal, they're the like, of jinsan, the kind. So you cannot say, I transferred my debt that I have from C to you, and his debt was dates, and he's supposed to give money to A. They're two different kinds. So it cannot be clear or specific or precise who would get what. So it has to be the same, money, right? Like this. وَوَقْتًا, time-wise. So someone, his debt is now, someone, his debt is later. So deferred. So they have to be within the same range. وَوَصْفًا, and in description. Like if it's different food, for example, this type of date versus another type of date, because the value is different. وَقَدْرًا, and the value of it, or the amount of it. Right? So if it's more than what the other guy has, it's not going to work. So it can be less, but not more. That's why he says, وَتَصِحُّ بِخَمْسَةٍ عَلَى خَمْسَةٍ مِنْ عَشَرَةٍ وَعَكْسُهُ. It's valid from خمسة على خمسة. You have A, B, C. So the B is supposed to give the money to A, but instead he told him take the money from C. But B and C, their loan, the خمسة على خمسة, his loan to A is 5. And the loan that he gave, the money that he gave to C is 10. So that's fine. So A, he's going to go to C to get 5. So that's fine because he's supposed to give 10. So instead he would take only 5 from him, and then the still the contract between B and C is still valid. Right? وتصح ب5/5 which is a very obvious thing. وعكسه and the opposite of that. وتصح ب5/5 and the opposite that means it's valid also if it's 10/5, but then they would only take the 5. They would only take the 5, and then the rest is to be given. Is it clear? Everybody understands? طيب ويعتبر رضا محيل ومحتال على غير مليء. ويعتبر, that means it's valid to have the رضا or the acceptance of المحيل. المحيل is B. B is محيل. B is transferring his loan from A to C. He's transferring his loan to C. So this is the محيل. ومحتال is the one that is A. A now his loan is transferred to C. على غير مليء, that means if C, you guys remember C? If C is مليء, مليء means full, meaning that he has money. Because what if he transfer him to something that is greedy, or he doesn't have money, or whatever it is? Even if he has loan, but he doesn't have money. He owes me some money, but he's broke. Then it's not valid. He has to accept. So, but then, because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, if a person, the muhtal, he should not refuse. If he is transferred to mali, if the person is wealthy, he has the means, he should not say, no, my deal is with you. Don't transfer me to someone else. It's not permissible for the muhtal, which is A. Especially that if he is transferred to someone that is mali. Clear? Because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So وَيُعْتَبَرُ رِضَى, that means the rida, the acceptance, it's valid from muhil, from the one that transfers. He has to accept that he wants to transfer his loan from himself to someone else. ومحتال, which is the one that of the original loan, that he would go to غير مليء, and then he has to accept. If it's غير مليء, he has to say, okay, no problem. But if he says no, then he has the right. Is it clear? So if he's mali, he does not have a choice to say no. If C is mali, so again, A, B, C. A gave money, lend money to B. And then B, when he was supposed to return money to A, he says, take your money from C. Right? So now, who's the ones to be accepted? The al-muhil, of course, he's the one that initiating this. And al-muhtal, the one that is A. For A to accept that he would go to C, he has no choice if C is rich, if C has the means. He cannot say no. But if C is broke or he doesn't have money, then he has the right to say no. Al-muhil is B. Here, who's as a condition? No one. Everybody has to accept, but with the condition that the muhtal is mali. I'm sorry, the al-muhal alayhi, which is C, he has to be mali. See, muhal alayhi. Inshallah, we should have got also the English terminologies for it. Do they have something like this? But anyway, so we'll stop here, inshallah, because of the time. We'll go through over the al-hawala again, inshallah, because of the time. So read the 3, inshallah, and read the words of it and make sure that everything is clear. And then for next time, inshallah ta'ala, we can go through them quickly, inshallah. طيب, with the hadith, what's the number of the hadith in Jami' Ulum al-Hikam? 140? 141. Do we have long hadith this week? This one. Oh, mashallah. Okay, 141. Oh, subhanallah. It's beautiful hadith. We'll take half of it, inshallah. This hadith where they used to, whenever they hear it, they would fall onto their knees because of the heaviness of the hadith. It says عن أبي ذر رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما يروي عن ربه عز وجل أنه قال يا عبادي إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي. Again, يا عبادي إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالموا. يا عبادي كلكم ضال إلا من هديته فاستهدوني أهدكم. يا عبادي كلكم جائع إلا من أطعمته فاستطعموني أطعمكم. يا عبادي كلكم عار إلا من كسوته فاستكسوني أكسكم. يا عبادي إنكم تخطئون بالليل والنهار وأنا أغفر لكم ذنوبكم جميعا فاستغفروني أغفر لكم. We'll continue the hadith inshallah next time, but the hadith is hadith Qudsi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as he says, فيما يروي عن ربه, as the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام is saying that from his Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, يا عبادي, O my ibad, O my slaves, إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي. I forbade حرمت from الحرام الظلم, the ظلم على نفسي, upon myself. That means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, He's the most just. There's no injustice that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whatsoever. وَجَعَلْتُهُ, and I made it بَيْنَكُمْ, among one another, مُحَرَّمًا, haram for you to commit any injustice. فَلَا تَظَالَمُوا. فَلَا تَظَالَمُوا, that means do not make dhulm, do not incur dhulm or oppression or injustice against any one of you towards one another. So, the dhulm is a huge subject, and this is what human beings, they are by default. إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. Human beings, they fall into dhulm so much. So whoever is the most successful one is the one that dies without having to commit any dhulm against anyone. الظلم ظلمات يوم القيامة. It's darknesses in the day of Al-Qiyamah. يا عبادي كلكم ضال, O my slaves, كلكم, all of you ضال. All of you are deviants. إلا من هديته, except the one I guide. إلا من هديته. Therefore, فاستهدوني, seek guidance from me. أهدكم, I will guide you. See the word hidayah? You have هديته, I guide him. فاستهدوني, seek guidance from me. أهدكم, I will guide you. يا عبادي, O my slaves, كلكم جائع, all of you are hungry, إلا من أطعمتم, except the one that I feed. فاستطعموني, so seek food from me. أطعمكم, I will feed you. يا عبادي, O my slaves, كلكم عار, all of you are عار is naked, don't have any clothes. إلا من كسوته, except the one that كسوته, the one that I would clothe him. فاستكسوني, seek clothing from me. أكسكم, I will cover you with clothes. يا عبادي, O my slaves, إنكم تخطئون بالليل والنهار. You indeed make mistakes, sins during the day and during the night. وأنا أغفر لكم ذنوبكم جميعا. And I forgive all of your sins. فاستغفروني أغفر لكم. So seek forgiveness from me, I will forgive you. And the hadith to be continued. This is a major hadith. This is one of the hadith that Allah honored the people of Hashem because the narrators are from there. And they would even they would fall onto their knees because of the hadith, and it's to be continued inshallah. So we'll continue it because of the time. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك.